Hey, what's up guys? This is Martin here from Kodak. I'm out here doing my casual walk like always, and today I would like to talk to you guys about being different and why it's absolutely important for you to be different and why you have to stand out in today's world. And this is going to be a very emotional message from me because I don't really like to talk about my past too much, and because some of you who don't know, I used to live in Norway for most of my years, for most of my life. I'm a half Polish, half Norwegian immigrant, and I used to be bullied, I used to be made fun of, I used to be judged all the time because of my Slavic descent, because I was Polish and all these things. But at the same time, after all those years, that experience right there ended up being the most valuable experience I could ever have. And here's why, okay? Because it's absolutely okay for you to be different. It's absolutely normal to be unique and be your own self. And people will judge you, people will make fun of you, people will say that you're not normal, people will say that you're weird, that you're not fitting in. And I think that this mentality has been heavily initiated or precipitated by the school system. Because when we're at school, we've been taught that we have to fit in, that we have to be like everybody else, we can't have our own opinions, we can't make our own assumptions about things, we can't be confident in all these things. So when we grow up, all of us end up thinking the exact same way. We all believe that we should just fit in with the system, and we should not be unique. We should not be creative. We should not be different from the crowd. And guys, there's nothing fucking wrong with you. It is absolutely okay for you to be different. Because I remember when I was a lot younger, when I was still at school, I was, my Norwegian was not the best because, we were Polish immigrants. My dad got a job in Norway, so we had to move with him. Because back then, at the time, back in Poland in the early 2000s, there was not really that many job opportunities. There was no internet, and people were earning a very low salary here. So there were no opportunities, basically. It was communism still. We still had communism in Poland. And so we decided to move to Norway, and, my dad had a really good paying job at the time. But, me and my little brother, because I have a little brother who's 4 or 5 years younger than me, we used to be bullied quite a lot for our last name, for being Polish, for not being Norwegian, and we used to be discriminated. And we did experience racism quite a bit. Like, I would call it indirect racism, because it's not like direct racism when they're like, oh, you're Polish, you should fuck off, you're a Polak. That's what they used to say to me when I was younger. Du en Polak, which is basically like a mean way of saying that you're Polish. Instead of saying du är polsk, which is like a normal way of saying it, they would be like, du är en Polak, du förtjänar ingenting, you don't deserve anything. And I still remember all these experiences. Because like these types of things never disappear in your mind. They're going to be with you forever. And I'm pretty sure a lot of immigrants who have lived in different countries have experienced the same thing. And it's absolutely normal. Racism will always exist. Racism is normal in every country. It's the same thing if I went to an African country and lived with Africans. I would experience the same thing. I would not fit in. I would not be normal. I would stand out from the crowd. And they would treat me differently and talk to me differently than normal Africans. It's the same way. I mean, I have a good friend who travels quite a lot, and he was in Japan recently. And he's a tall guy as well. And he said this to me. He was like, man, all the Japanese girls dig me as well. But at the same time, there's a lot of racism in Japan against Europeans and white people, quote unquote. because Japanese people are usually on the shorter side, they're not too tall. And so, the men who were living in Japan, they were actually jealous of him when they saw him, picking up Japanese chicks. And it's a completely normal thing. It's always been that way. Because we fear the things that are different from us. We fear when somebody else is better than us, or we perceive him or her as being better. And so, right, racism is universal across the board. It is not just exclusive to one country. But I have experienced racism in Norway because of my last name and because of who I was. My name, for instance, my real name is actually Martin, or Martin. And in Norwegian, they used to pronounce it Marcin, which is basically a word for a guinea pig in Norwegian. It's a marsvin, a guinea pig. And they also used to call me things such as a maler, which is a painter in Norwegian, because all the Polish immigrants that used to live in Norway, all of them they've been working blue collar jobs like plumbing, construction, cleaning and all these things. At least that was the case when I was still living in Norway. I'm not sure if it has changed, but it's normal. I can accept my past, and my brother used to go through the same thing. But racism is everywhere. And with that being said, it is okay to be unique. It is okay to be different. There's nothing wrong with you. Like, imagine for a second if every single person on earth was exactly the same. If every single girl that you dated was the exact same type. Life would be boring, wouldn't it? It's the exact same thing with, like, imagine if all people looked the same. If we didn't have all the races, if we didn't have whites, blacks, Mexicans, Latinos, Asians, and all these races, life would be boring. So it is important that we accept this fact. We're always going to be different, and there's nothing wrong with you guys. There's nothing wrong with you. And people will make fun of you at times. Even though, bullying right now is not really as apparent as it once was. I do think that cyberbullying is more apparent than ever compared to, like, bullying in person, because most people nowadays are just on their phones. They're just scrolling through TikTok all day. So it'll make sense. And so, people will label you as being different. People will call you all types of names. People will judge you. People will make all types of assumptions about you because you're from a different country, because you're from a different culture. You have maybe a different belief system. Maybe you have a different religion. It all depends on what you believe in. But it's okay. It's okay to be different. And I did watch this one documentary the other day about Elvis. And they were actually analyzing his career and the reasons as to why he was so famous, as to why he was. And you know what they came up with? They said that the main reason as to why he was so famous is because he was different. That's the main reason as to why he was so successful. He was basically the main creator of rock and roll type of music back in the 60s, 50s. I don't know the exact time span the exact time when he actually played, because he lived a long time ago. But he was different, and he was a good-looking guy for sure. He had a very good voice, and he was just different. He had his own unique style, and people loved him for that. And nowadays, look at the music that is being produced. Every single type of music, especially rap music, has degraded so much. It's all the same. They're just talking about, bitch and this, bitch and that. They're just talking about fucking girls and having money and all these things. It's very, like, surface level. They're not talking about deep things anymore. For instance, Tupac or Biggie, they all used to talk about very deep and meaningful things in their songs. And it looks like the current state of rap has disappeared completely. The same thing with pop music. They're all just copying each other instead of making their own versions or creating their own songs. It's the same thing with people. Every single person I meet nowadays, they all look the same. Especially men. They all look the same. There's nothing about them that makes them stand out. Nothing. They're all like NPCs. Like you would have these, random ass GTA 5 NPCs. They all look like exactly like them. So it's okay for you to be different. It's okay for you to be unique. And it's important for you guys to stand out in the marketplace of life. And, you can especially see this when you're in a traffic jam. When a cool car pulls up, or when you have a Lamborghini or a Ferrari on the traffic jam, it's always going to stand out. People are always going to pay attention to a car like that. Why? Because it is different, because it's unique, and it's memorable, and it's beautiful, it's aesthetically pleasing to the eye, and that's why people pay attention to it, because it's different, it's outside the norm. So, there you have it. It's okay for you guys to be different. And no matter what you're going through, no matter what you've experienced in the past, it is okay for you guys to be different. And stop living in the past. Like I've just shared it with you guys, a very deep story of mine. And I'm not living in the past. I just, shared this with you guys because I want to show my bad side too. I've gone through these things myself too. And I used to be skinny fat. I used to have an accent. I was short. I was not really in control of myself. I was not confident. But all of these things have changed once I grew up, because I did decide to make a change in my life. And it can be the same thing for you guys. It's up to you. Do you want to fit in, or do you want to be different and unique? And I'm going to leave it up to you guys. You can make that decision. Ciao.